MBA 2s, and welcome to your last 100. It was an idea that got passed my way that hopefully we can get you squared away for some cooking and some meal prep, and hopefully some par stock for your kitchens and inside of this episode that we're going to be doing here. On top of the fun stuff of actually cooking some foods. We're going to have a box. We're going to be doing a harissa chicken today. A grain bowl, so we were trying to focus on healthy here. We also have tofu for some of you, so the marinade works either way, and we're going to go along with that. Now, hopefully, per the email that was sent out from our department, some of you had already started to get your rice rinsed and cooked, and we're going to be doing some of that with me as well, and that'll give it some time to cook. Brown rice takes a little bit longer. We want to make sure we have enough time to get it cool for the class, so you're hopefully cooking that already, and if not, we're going to do it together anyways, and we're going to do an unboxing here. So a lot of this stuff hopefully refrigerated upon getting. We have stuff that is labeled, some stuff we're going to use in multiple different areas, such as the cilantro, and we're going to talk about different knife skills and ways of preparing that. Some of the things, we're not going to be just going straight down the list here. We're going to be doing things in the way that makes most sense as far as time consuming. Once again, this class could be as long as an hour. I'm not really 100% sure how long it'll take. But some of the things I say here are, marinate the chicken at least for a couple hours. Rice rinsing is a process. So we're going to be doing a little bit of bouncing around, but that's kind of what has to happen to make this work right. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the box right now. We're going to go over some of the stuff we have here. So we have, in this box, we have a lemon. We have an avocado. We have some sliced red onions. And I do a sliced red onion for the marinade. And the reason why I choose slicing it as opposed to like just chopping it to whatever is, which I'll show you how to do the slicing of it, is to really expand the surface area of what's getting marinated. If you dice it, you might not get that on everything, but if you slice it, it should happen. Some things for convenience you're going to notice I took upon myself to do. I did make the seasoning packs measured out already for the chicken or the tofu, so that will be an easy one for you. And the bag that you're going to be putting it in is also in here, so you'll be marinating right inside the bag. All right. We have some tomatoes that we're going to dice together. I'm going to teach you how to hold a knife. This is supposed to be a Kitchen 101, so we're going to really cover a lot of information here. I'm going to teach you how to split an avocado and get the pulp out of it. I'm going to teach you how to roll a lemon and juice it. Cleaning garlic and how to chop that up. So I've got a couple marinades because I'm going to be marinating tofu and chicken. The ice pack you can keep or dispose of. I'd probably dispose of it. But each of you are going to be getting either 2 chicken breasts or 2 pieces of tofu. Lime wedges, already cut them into wedges. Olive oil for said marinade. Greek yogurt, which I'm going to just put right back in. You're going to end up using it for the garnish. Cilantro, which is a garnish for the bowl, and also it's a part of the vinaigrette. Red wine vinegar, which is for the vinegar for the bowl. Lime juice for the vinaigrette. Rice wine vinegar for the vinaigrette. Corn, we're going to also be doing this in the beginning, so I'm going to set this aside also because we're going to get that roasted. The corn I also took and I pre-seasoned. I say in the recipe, salt and pepper and cumin to taste. All right, we've got queso fresco. Queso fresco, which is a firmer cheese. I put it on par with a milder feta. It's nice, it's crumbly. It goes great with a lot of your southwestern flavored foods, and so I picked this for that. Black beans, once again, these are pre-seasoned, salt and pepper and cumin. Beans, any bean that you get canned, if you choose to get canned, and we did use canned for this, thoroughly rinse. It's kept in a preservative to prolong the shelf life of whatever's inside of it. So please take those beans, if you get them in a can, and then you would rinse the liquids off of them and then season them. At that point, they're good. You can heat them if you want. If you go from a raw bean, my recommendation would be to take them in liquid, soak them overnight. So the day before you're going to intend on cooking them. you would soak them overnight in some water. But it doesn't need to be water. It could be stock if you do eat proteins. If you're not a vegetarian, you can use to enhance your foods. You can use stock. So when I say water, please keep in mind whenever you're soaking anything, it doesn't necessarily, just because a recipe might say water, it doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be water. It needs to be easy enough to be absorbed by the starchy or the bean. And that can always enhance to the flavor. Whether if you're a vegetarian, you might want to soak them overnight in tomato juice, and that'll obviously just add to the flavor. And that has more minerals and vitamins. It can add to the obvious nutritional value of the food. All right, I'm going to be long-winded too, so you're going to have to bear with me. You're going to be getting a lot of information, and we will be on live as well to answer questions. So please, feel free to ask away. And I'd be happy, or my sous chef would be happy to help you with it. And I suppose I should probably say my sous chef's behind the camera recording this right now. And I am Chef John Miller, your chef here at the Ross School of Business. A little belated, but better late than never, right? So the olive oil for the vinaigrette, I'm using extra virgin olive oil because I want that flavor in the vinaigrette. When it comes to oils and how I typically use them, extra virgin olive oil I don't typically cook with. Extra virgin olive oil is put through a process that to me is something that should be used as a condiment in itself, like a vinegar or something. It's expensive for one, and it's delicious. It's been a process of pressing it to make it extra virgin. And you don't typically, you can, but I don't typically heat it, cook with it. I'll use a peanut oil or something along those lines if I'm going to be doing any cooking. So please keep that in mind if you're making any choices about how you go about your oils and how you're going to use them. Extra virgin olive oil, in my personal opinion, is not a cooking oil. Sugar. This is going to be for our pickled onions and red onions. We're going to pickle. So pickling is a simple process in which we take a vegetable and we denature it by the use of vinegars and sugars. I know, it sounds like super complex for something that's really simple. And this is something that's going to go on top of the grain bowl, but you can pickle a lot of different items. And this is the basic premise behind pickling. And you can use this for other things. There's a place that I like to go to in downtown Detroit called the Dime Store, and they have a duck pop. And they have on top of it some pickled vegetables, which are to die for. And I think it's all it is bell peppers, scallions, carrots, and then they do a quick pickle, but I think they add a little sriracha to it. And they put that on a poached egg on top of the duck, and it's just dynamite. So I recommend going there. Support your local businesses, they need it. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a basic pickle, and you're going to be, I understand that. I understand that concept. And you can apply it to things such as breakfast, such as different salads. You can pickle broccoli. You can pickle any really kind of vegetable, and you change the structure of it, and you make it into something more than it was. So it's broadening your ideas of what you might choose to do. All right, harissa paste is Northern African hot sauce. The recipe I attached for you to make it if you want to. I gave you harissa paste. I did not pack the ingredients to make said harissa paste. It's a little. If you eat it enough, the recipe's there for you to make it. If you're just using it for a marinade type, then we have it for just a marinade. And so that's why I did what I did. I have a little bit here for that purpose. We have some red bell peppers, which I'm going to, just like the tomatoes, similar process, explain how we clean and cut these. I did pack my own salt and pepper mixture. So a lot of the recipes it says add salt and pepper or add salt. This is your basic salt and pepper, my basic salt and pepper mixture, which is 10 parts salt to 1 part pepper. So very mild in the pepper. When I go into using more salts or more ingredients in my standard seasoning, I start adding garlic powder and onion powder. But for this class, we're going to keep it nice and simple for you. Kosher salt, typically what we use in most of your commercial restaurants. And note that if you use table salt for anything, iodized salt, in your cooking at home, that iodized salt is a finer grain salt, and it will make your food saltier. So when a recipe is, you're like, oh, I love this recipe, you try it and create it, and you're like, oh my God, it's so salty. Note that there's differences in obviously what you're using. Kosher salt and sea salts are larger grains and require, usually where you're at in most of your recipes. And then as you go down to iodized, it's going to require less. And then obviously, please don't put popcorn salt in your foods. It would just be toxic, and you probably end up really hating your life for it. So I did have garlic in 2 times, but when we do this, we're gonna combine them. We're just gonna know what they're for. One's for a vinaigrette, one's for a marinade. So for the marinade, I'm gonna mash them. We're gonna put it in the marinade. For the vinaigrette, we're gonna be doing a process with a couple pieces of equipment that I have here. I have what they call an immersion blender, or a food processor, or a burr stick. It's got 3 different names. You can find them on Amazon. They're probably around $30, I'm guessing. And I think they're beneficial, and I'm going to tell you how to properly use it, as opposed to the problems I've seen with it. You're all college students. I'm assuming you potentially have a bar blender. So if you had a bar blender, there's the other aspect of this, of what we potentially can do with it. So there's multiple different ways, and I do think it's a staple of the kitchen. So we'll go over some equipment that I think is important to have in your kitchen, and some way to quickly process vinaigrettes, hummus, pastes, pesto, things along those lines, even harissa paste is nice to have. It's just nice to have something along those lines. Okay, back to the unboxing. So we also have the honey for the vinaigrette, crushed red bell pepper for the vinaigrette, and then our grains. So we're going to rinse these off first off, and then we'll go into marinating our chicken. And then from there, we're going to get the corn roasting. We're going to pickle the red onions. Then we're going to move to the cold side of things. But while the rice is cooking, I will go over meal planning and kind of prepping for the week. And when you should potentially start that process. I get it's the end of the week. You don't want to think about it. But you really probably don't want to do it on Sunday when you're getting ready for Monday. So it's kind of a working your schedule and working your diet around your schedule. So we're going to kind of talk through that. So without further ado, we're going to put some of this stuff back away, and we will go into the process of rinsing off. Now, hopefully, once again, your rice is cooking. It's a brown rice. Hopefully, it shouldn't take longer than... it could take as long as 45 minutes, but it shouldn't take longer than really 15 to 30 minutes, somewhere in that window. We are using Uncle Ben's brown rice, so that's kind of important to know when you're purchasing. If you get rice from Whole Foods, it could be different kind of rice. As far as brown rice goes, you think that all things are the same, but they're not, and it could take longer to cook. So the one we use has a faster time. I guess another thing I can explain to you, what is the difference between brown rice and white rice? So brown rice is not a milled rice. So white rice is heavily milled, and it removes the germ and also the forgetting the second part of it. But there's pieces that are removed from it that take it away from being a whole grain. And Anne-Marie's actually, my sous chef's looking it up right now. But it makes it less healthy for you. It's at this point a starchy food, and it's really not great. I mean, if you can avoid it, which I don't see why you can't, then avoid it. Use brown rice, get brown rice, eat brown rice. I do like white rice. Here we go. So brown rice is a whole grain. This means that it contains all parts of the grain, which includes the fibrous bran and the nutritious germ. So what we discussed, once again, in why it is what it is. And some of you probably know all this already, so I don't want to beat it with a dead horse, but let's get started here. I wanted to discuss one more thing, since this is a Kitchen 101. And a lot of you probably live in a situation where I don't know, I actually don't know what your kitchen situation looks like. But something that in a kitchen, one of the things that we always set ourselves in line with is mise en place. Mise en place is everything in its place. We try to work with a level of cleanliness and organization. And whenever I do something at home, I move everything out of the way that is not needed. I was doing these cooking videos earlier this year on Catering at Ross's webpage, which we do have a lot of content you can go back and check out. And I took everything, it was out of my house because of COVID, I took everything that wasn't needed and I moved it out of the way. Now I know that a lot of you probably have limited space, I got limited space, but you try to not have things there that, one, you can contaminate your food, that can potentially cause you to mess up what you're doing. You know, clutter is in my opinion, something that can make it the appearance of dirtiness, uncleanliness. So having this clutter can cause problems and having things not clean. Now we, in the kitchen, have sanitary buckets and we sanitize everything prior to beginning the process that we're doing right here with you. But, you know, at your house, I don't think you're going to have a sanitized bucket. But you need to have a process of being ready to wash your hands, being ready to clean the surfaces, and then moving between cooked raw food to cooked. Because you really, there's a lot of times when people get sick, and the main holiday where people get food poisoning is around Thanksgiving. And this is one where I think that people are overextending themselves, and they're trying to step out of their comfort zone. They've got a raw turkey over here and pieces from it over here. Oh, don't forget the stuffing and then or dressing. So I think that's one of the highest meals a year that people end up in a hospital with food poisoning. So I wanted to address that. That's why I backed up for a second here. And if you want to go over it, clean and organize your area first. Take the stuff out of the box as you need it. And so I did that already. I've got my corn that I know I'm going to roast. I've got my proteins, and I've got my marinade ingredients over there. And now I have my rice and quinoa over here. Got my pans already identified. Not going to be doing a lot of running around. You shouldn't be doing a lot of running around either. So, all right, so back to rinsing and the brown rice. And I've already kind of said this, but the reason why we rinse rice, brown rice that is because it is packed somewhere. And wherever they pack it, there could be sawdust, particles, and other, things that could have potentially ended up in there. And we don't want to have those things translate into our food. We're not trying to just go around eating random things. We're trying to eat food things. Okay, so with the brown rice and with your different rices, you're going to have different cook times. So some rices require white rice, that is a 50-50 ratio of water to rice. And that's what we have here, is a 50-50 ratio of the water to the brown rice. And all we're doing in every aspect of what we do here is, and I'm trying not to mess up the camera shot here, is we season every step along the way. So our little standard seasoning mix, I put a little bit of seasoning into the rice. And then that's going to go on the stove. So I do a low flame, medium to medium flame. Our kitchen medium flame might be your high flame. It's one of those things that adjust as you're doing it. If you have a lid, I do suggest you put a lid on your pots or pans. It helps that the water doesn't evaporate out of there before the item is fully cooked. And it will help to keep that in there. Now, also with cooking grains, rices, your beans even, if a recipe tells you set amount of water it takes to cook set amount of grains for the time frame, that doesn't necessarily keep all the conditions in mind. Keep in mind whoever wrote said recipe took the time with whatever piece of equipment they had. You could have a pot, which they all come differently, and I'm going to show you this before I rinse my quinoa. And that is, this one has a little bit of a heavier bottom on it, and the heavier bottom causes the heat to distribute more evenly. I have a cheaper pot at home when I want to boil water for eggs that has no thick bottom, and so that one I can get the heat in there quick, and water's boiling, and we have a different cook time. Water will evaporate quicker. So what I'm trying to say to you is, just like anything else when it comes to cooking, you need to be able to adjust it to you, to your situation, to your house. I'm not asking you to go out and spend $1,000 on pots and pans. You could if you want. I'm asking you to understand the process with those pots and pans that can help you be successful for what you're cooking. So, okay, quinoa. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to rinse the quinoa. Now, quinoa, the reason why I didn't have you guys do this ahead of time cooking it is because it's going to literally cook in about a 10-minute period. It's a small grain and it cooks very quickly. So there's no issues there. Okay, so right now what we're doing is I had taken the time to rinse the quinoa and I'm now toasting it. And this is just going to bring out more of a nuttier flavor to it. And this is, you can do this over a low flame, just so long as you're near it, or else you're going to end up with having burnt quinoa. So taking it and just moving it around, we're going to get that going. And that is just toasting it a little bit. We're not looking to go crazy with it. It's just going to bring out a little bit of the nuttier flavor. We're not making a dark roux here. And then we add our water or stock or tomato juice or whatever you're using, and we're going to cook it. So once again, on a low flame. So at this point, we would take our area, you know, we get rid of the things we don't need. We may need a strainer, so when it's done cooking, we're going to lay that on a sheet tray and let it cool. And we're going to get our protein marinade. What we're going to do here is we got our 2 Ziploc bags, and in our marinade we have garlic cloves. So I'm going to take the garlic cloves here. Now for the marinade we're going to take and I'm going to mash them. I just want to get that flavor. You don't have to, I think, go crazy with this. Give it a quick little chop there, not a big deal, okay? We're going to take that, and I'm just going to put it in a bowl. I'm going to put all my ingredients together in this bowl. So we got our onions, okay? And I slice those thin, and I can go over that process in a little while. I have our marinade. I'm going to put a little bit of marinade on each one. I'm kind of doing this to where I have a little bit of everything here. We have our harissa paste. We have our olive oil, and what that's going to do is that's going to stretch the seasoned liquid out. We want to have more moisture to cover the surface area of our proteins. And our lemon. So, a lemon. Best way to get the juice out of a lemon, in my opinion, is you just give it a little squish pre. So we take it and we put our weight on it, we roll it. So this is the process for lemon juice, lime juice, grapefruit juice for cocktails or marinades, and so on and so forth. So give it a little roll, and what that's doing, that's breaking the structure inside up, so the liquid will flow more freely out of it. Take your lemon, cut it in half. I always use strainers. I love strainers. It saved me from having to pick through anything with my fingers trying to get lemon seeds out. And then you find out where all your cuts are too. So and this kind of eliminates that problem for you. So we get our lemon, we juice it. It's going to be delicious. All right. And then we have our bags here that we're going to be putting this stuff into. So I'm going to start with the tofu, and then I'll do the chicken, since the tofu can potentially contaminate somebody. So we're going to take it and I'm going to toss it with the seasoning and some of the ingredients as we move along here. So the bags you're just going to cut. You can use scissors at home if you want. This is going to need a little salt also. And the salt, what salt does to an ingredient, you're thinking, oh, I'm putting salt on it. What does salt do to your food when you do that? Salt actually takes and it causes a transfer of flavors through a process known as osmosis. So osmosis is the transfer of liquids through a cellular membrane without permeating, without destroying the cell. So what we're doing is salt is helping to move what we want this to taste like throughout the tofu. So we're taking it, we're tossing a little bit here with it. We're going to take our seasoning mix. We're going to move our tofu to the bag. Now once again, I'm starting with the tofu because the tofu can't contaminate the chicken, but the chicken definitely can contaminate the tofu. So we don't want that. Now for you, what you're going to do is you're going to take your seasoning and you're going to pour it directly into the mix. You're only marinating if you had chicken or if you have tofu. But for the purpose of this class, I took this, and you can do this as well, and you can pour it in your bag if you want. and then mush it around a little bit. Give it a little mushy mush, a little bit of love. So this is spreading it all over. This way we're gonna do it with the chicken. We're gonna have it tossed throughout there, and I'm gonna marinate this for the length of this class, but obviously I put down in the recipe to marinate it for an hour or whatever. I removed, by pushing down, as much of the air as I can. There's another way you can go about this where you can fill a container with water and you can put this in there and pull it down, and the water will push the air out, and then you can seal it. This keeps the marinade directly on the surface area. If you have a bunch of air bubbles in there, you got some marinade stuck over here, marinade over there. This keeps the marinade exactly where we want it. We want it on the surface. We don't want a lot of air. So that's how and why we're doing this. So now, once again, we have our stuff here. We're adding a little more salt and pepper for the chicken. Now I'm going to cut the chicken, and this is where we have to just be careful. The knife gets washed after. I'm going to wipe down the area as well. So the chicken, I'm going to take it and squeeze it out of the bag. We don't need to have all kinds of splashing. Work close to where you're at. This is one of those times when you need to be aware of what you're doing and be mindful of it. Now we have our chicken. It's right now in the marinade. We're going to take it. We're going to put it in the bag. And you can do this with your liquid for your specific piece. Pour the remainder of that directly into said bag. Once again, removing as much air as possible and sealing. Now, when you have these items, you're going to want to have somewhere safe to put them, that they're out of the way. You don't want to have them touching. So I touched the cutting board. You see I got this here. You see I touched that pan. All areas of contamination, all areas that need to be addressed. My sous chef brought something up to me and I thought it would be a good idea. And there's a misconception that by rinsing chicken prior to marinating or cooking it, you are going to reduce the chance of having salmonella happen. And that is not a fact whatsoever. Salmonella is in raw products completely and totally, chicken that is. So if you are rinsing chicken, keep in mind that the water that you're running over the chicken is going to contaminate your entire sink. It's going to potentially splash. You're going to have, that everywhere. So I don't really recommend that. I think that it's just an added process that could potentially cause people to end up getting ill. The process of cooking the chicken and the temperature that I have you cooking it to is the appropriate process and temperature to which the food will be cooked and safe to consume. So please make sure that you do that. Okay, so I've got my rice and stuff cooking. We got our chicken marinating. We're going to get our corn put in the oven. So I've got a little bit of corn. Like I said, I already put a little salt and pepper on it. You can take a little bit of this olive oil that I did for the vinaigrette, and you can incorporate that into the corn just a little bit. We're just tossing a little in there. We're not sacrificing all of our oil to that. And then you put your lid back on, you give it a little shaky, and then we're going to spread it out onto the sheet tray. Now, whenever I brown something on anything, it always seems to me that the exterior of the pan gets brown and the interior does not. So here you see I focused on spreading things around the exterior of the pan, and now I'm going to put it in the oven. So sorry, we got to turn the oven back on. So the oven's at 400 degrees. We're looking to just get a little color on there. We want it to get a little crisp. All right, so here you see we've got the brown rice. It's the grain is starting to split, and it's starting to get larger and look better. So that's what we're looking for here. And with the quinoa, same deal. Starting to open up, starting to pop. So we're getting the process right about where we want it. Both these ingredients are going to end up being used together. So when we cool them, we can cool them on the same tray together. We just want to make sure that they're done. So I'm going to check it right now. Yeah. And yeah, that's good. Okay, so both those are squared away, and they're where we want them. So at this point, I'm going to take them, I'm going to drain the liquid out of them, and I'm going to cool them on this tray here. We want this to be nice and cold for spring bowls. And our quinoa. This is all about aiding in your digestion. That's what it's all about here. We're trying to get you the grains that you need to aid your digestion. And they're definitely better for you. Now when you're cooling something, you're going to spread it evenly over the sheet tray. And there you have it. I'm going to now put this in the walk-in. We're going to sear our chicken. We're going to now get our chicken ready to go here. It's been marinated, it's been seasoned, we have our pan on. You can see that our pan is hot. When you saute something or sear something, you want to hear that sear, saute. I think that's one of the things they always taught us in school. If you don't hear a sizzle, you're not doing it properly. So a little bit of your oil, once again, you can use for this purpose of this class, you can use the extra virgin. But moving forward, I would seriously consider just using your regular peanut oil or canola oil for that. So now I have my chicken here. I'm going to let the juice drain a little bit out of there. Put a little seasoning right on it, more salt and pepper. And once again, a little more salt and pepper. Remove that out of the way. Now we have our chicken searing, and the process of searing anything is one where oil is put on a surface with water or moisture inside of it. And the issue that can occur there is moisture breaks down oil. So as you're doing this, that moisture is slowly breaking down that oil as we're doing it. I try to get my oil underneath every bit of it if I can. So I already had some on the pan, and I'm making sure that it's still there. If you don't, it just ends up looking more burnt and less seared. And this goes the same for the tofu. You can move the onions out of the way, but most of that other stuff we want in there. So at this point, I would add a little more oil. Don't be afraid to adjust your flame at your house based upon what you're working with. You may want to have a higher flame, a slower flame. We're just cooking the flavors into this, and then we're going to be putting it in the oven. The oven I already had preheated. I told you guys to preheat it to 300 degrees. And the reason why I chose such a low temperature is with the smaller cuts of meat, the higher the temperature, the more moisture you're going to squeeze out of it. What I'm going to try to do is kind of like associate what is food. Food is muscle. And if you went and you worked out and you're sore for after that moment, you're pushing all the liquid out of that scenario. So we're going to take and we're going to do the smaller cuts of meat at a lower temperature. All right, so we got the sear on the chicken. I raise my proteins off of the pan when I'm going to put something in the oven. It helps the air to circulate around when you're cooking, and you'll get a more even cook. Okay, so I did the same process here with the tofu. I put a little bit of oil in, I took it out of the marinade, and we put a little salt and pepper on it, and we seared it off on both sides. So I'm going to take this out of the pan. I will admit the tofu took longer to sear than the chicken. I don't know that I really ever put any thought to that, but it did, and I think that once again goes to the moisture content. Something that's going to be seared off, it's going to really take a certain amount of time. So once again, because we want this to be cool, I'm going to get them in the oven. I'm going to cook them for a little bit, get some of the moisture out of the tofu. It doesn't need to be cooked. The chicken we're going to cook to 165 degrees, roughly 10 minutes. They're 4-ounce breasts. And at the temperature that we're talking about at 300 degrees, that's what we're looking for. And then we're going to let them rest. You never cut into any size cut of meat without letting it rest for a minute. And let the muscle relax, let the juices flow throughout that once again. And there you go. So while we were away for a second there, we pulled the corn out of the oven. You can see this is what we're looking for right here. Nice and toasty. This is going to add a little texture to our dish. So we're going to take that and we're going to move that over to the cold prep area now that we've got this done. So we're going to get chicken in the oven. Okay, so now we're going to go into the pickling of the onion. So what we got here is our vinegar and our sugar, and we're going to add a little salt and pepper to that. And once again, this can go towards any pickling of vegetables when it comes down to it. And you can then have more in your arsenal when you're cooking. So I'm going to put that on a medium flame because I'm going to turn my back to it so that way I can show you what I did here for the onion. So I took about 1/4 of an onion, and you'll see that I've kind of taken the edges off of it here, and now I'm going to hold my knife. Now, so how do I hold my knife? So I take with my hand and I use this as an extension. So my finger is kind of pointing in this direction here up the knife blade, and when I hold something with the knife, I'm going to try to do it sideways here a little bit. I kind of do a rocking motion like this, okay? I never go higher than the knuckle. Have I nicked my knuckle over the years? Yes, and I expect you all will potentially do this in the process of learning if you intend to learn how to use a knife properly. And it is a rocking motion. Doing this is painful to the knife, and it's not something we need to do. When you're using a knife, it's a back and forth motion, and you're utilizing the full length of the blade. Okay? So now I got my onion here. I'm going to hold it firm like this, and once again, I'm coming straight down at it, but I'm rocking the blade. If the pieces start to break apart, you don't need to try to hold everything together. You know, work in a way that you can be successful without injuring yourself. But now, I take those and I just put them in a bowl. Once again, pickling is the process of denaturing something. So, you know, there's different ways to go about pickling. Some people take a brine, which is the combination of sugars, salts, and vinegars, and they heat it and they cool it and then they put it on something. For this one, we're actually denaturing and we're slightly like a blanching without the shocking portion of it. We're going to take this hot liquid. Once our sugar and salt is incorporated, which it is just about, I'm going to help it along with the stir. And then we're going to pour it over the onions. And then we're going to put that in the refrigerator. So currently we have in the refrigerator, we have our chicken, our tofu, we have our corn, we have our rice and quinoa. All right. So then I got it to the point where the sugar and the salt has now became one with the vinegar, and I pour. And the smell burns my face off. Now we're going to take this and I'm going to head over to the cold side. We're going to discuss a little bit about our meal prepping for the week, how we're going to go about that. We're going to talk about the par list, and we're going to go into making our vinaigrette and then building our bowls. So hopefully at this point, if you have questions, feel free to ask as we're going along through this. And I just wanted to do a quick little recap of where we are at this point. Right now we have cooling, we have our quinoa, we have our brown rice, we have our corn, we have our pickled onions, our chicken, and our tofu, all in the refrigerator, all coming down in temperature. Really, if you're going to end up putting it in the refrigerator, you want to serve it and eat it cold, probably below 40 degrees. For the sake of this class, we're going to get it cold enough that where it all kind of incorporates together. The more moisture in the rice and the quinoa, the colder we'll end up getting. Something I forgot to mention, in the box you're also going to have 3 pieces of paper. One of them is this recipe. The other one is going to be our Catering at Ross page, information and how to get a hold of us for any catering. And the other one is going to be our kitchen par sundry list. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Catering at Ross. Anne-Marie, my sous chef here, she does a heck of a job. She puts a lot of different things out there, and I know we're doing limited menus over at Seagull Cafe. And we appreciate anybody and all that came out and helped support us. It's been a tough year. I think just in the industry and then let alone mentally for us. And we're trying to do the best we potentially can in supporting us by going on to the Catering at Ross Facebook page, liking it, and same with the Instagram. We would like it and appreciate it. The Catering at Ross page, I all summer long did cooking classes with my daughter, and we did them on Tuesdays and Fridays at 11 a.m. And we covered topics pertinent to what was going on at the time. So when all stores were running out of bread, we were doing a whole episode on how to make bread with what you might have at home, the basics. So that way you could have fresh bread. And so on and so forth. We did things, and we left it vague. I called one like any bean chili, because you may not find the beans when the shelves were empty so I couldn't really say like 100% what you were gonna see. So we made these things around the pandemic and around my daughter and I having fun in the kitchen, and hopefully cater to all the people that could take their mind off of this gloomy situation that we're currently in. All right, so I'm just going to keep on rattling along here. We're going to move on to Vinaigrette Town, and we're going to get the final things prepared here, and then we're going to build our bowls. So hopefully by this time, with all the talking that I've done, you've been able to get caught up, and we're pretty much in the same spot with our cooking and our cooling of our foods and everything. So that way we can move forward. So now we're going to go into the process of making the vinaigrette. Now I did pack up a thing of cilantro here in a 4-ounce cup. I want you to pull a little bit of that out, and you're going to put that to the side. That's going to be a part of your garnish for your finished bowl. So we're going to move that over out of the way, and we're going to make our vinaigrette. Now you can make your vinaigrette with whatever you happen to have at home. Obviously the old handy dandy whisk that we discussed already purchasing in your bowl, but I'm going to use this burr stick. Now what we're doing here is we're making a temporary emulsification. So what's an emulsification? An emulsification is the bonding of two liquids through means of whether it be mixing with a whisk, or through, obviously we're going to be using this burr stick, or you could use a bar blender. Sometimes there's permanent emulsions. Those are more of your mayonnaise-based, egg-bound, ranch dressings, stuff along those lines. And then there's what we're making, which is a vinaigrette, which is considered a temporary emulsion. So we have all of our ingredients here. So I have two different containers that I'm going to use my burr stick with. I have this bowl that I could use, which is good for using if you're making it by hand with a whisk, or you find something that's more cylindrical. So you're just like, well, I don't have a giant cylindrical tube at home. Yeah, I got it, but you got a pint glass. I found that using at home, I use my pint glass, and that's roughly about the circumference of the blade here. So then I could just go up and down and manipulate it like that. I'm not trying to get something emulsified like this, and it's spitting out ingredients all over the place. And if I'm doing it in a controlled environment, it's going to more evenly form together. So if you were doing this by hand, you would probably put your honey in first. Honey is going to work as your thickener. Since I'm using my little handy dandy burr stick here, I'm going to put all my ingredients in roughly at the same time. So we got, right now, our honey in there. We've got our vinegar, we got our red pepper flakes. We're trying to work clean and organized. We've got our lime juice. So most of your vinaigrettes consist of an oil, a vinegar, usually some sort of sweetener, and then whatever other pieces you want to have in there to help influence the flavor. This is your basic profile for it. I'm using extra virgin olive oil to add another layer to that flavor. You can use whatever oil that you think goes best. If you were doing this by hand, we're going to loosely chop some of these ingredients so you can see how to properly cut and chop some of them. You would take your garlic cloves. I always nip off this little piece in the back. Little piece in the back. Get rid of those off so they don't end up into our vinaigrette. Now once again, holding my hand like this. So the knife blade never goes over the knuckle, and I'm doing a rocking motion. I take my time. I'm looking at what I'm doing. If there's a smaller product than, or as I'm near the end of a product, I really kind of try to stay focused. Now I'm looking up at you now, but I'm back at the thing. Don't have distractions going on. You know, keep your fingertips as long as you can. They grow back, but you don't have as much feeling in them. Trust me on that one. So mincing garlic is a process in which, you know, we take it, we get it to a workable area, then I wipe the blade down, I bring everything back in. I'm not haphazardly swinging around all over God's good earth, just right here, right in the center of where my knife is. It's really sticky. I pull it back down, maybe get a little off my gloves, bring it back down, chopping again, chop, chop, choppy. Now I don't need to do this if I'm putting it in this and the burr stick's going to hit it, but I'm doing it for your benefit so you can see, if you're mixing this at home, how to properly chop up garlic. Storing garlic once it's chopped. Always store in the refrigerator. You can keep it in oil, that's fine, but once again in the refrigerator. A couple weeks, you know, if you're going to do recipes and you're doing meal prepping, you know, you may not want to cut garlic every single time. It gets kind of be a little bit of annoyance. So what I tend to do is I'll take a couple bulbs and I'll end up chopping them all at the same time and store it in a little bit of oil. Everything I cook my garlic in, or everything my garlic's in, at some point in time is going to be in oil. So why not have it in the oil when I store it, and then when I begin cooking something, I take a little bit of the garlic with the oil. When I'm making a vinaigrette, take the garlic with the oil. So we do that. Okay, so now we're at this point where it is chopped up. I take my blade. You can see I'm going to have it at an angle here. Right now I'm just laying it flat on top of it. I put it at an angle, a little bit less than a 45 degree, probably more like 35 degree, and I pull my knife through it. Holding my hands like this, and I'm pulling through it. It's making a fine paste. And I come back with my knife, I scrape the surface, and I'm going to do it probably 3 times. But I got the knife, wants to stick to the side, get it off. And you do it, you do it, you do it. There's the second time. So it's really getting to be gooey, sticky, pasty. And the angle, because it's trying to stick to the blade, I'm getting a finer angle. So we started off, we were probably at 35 degrees, we're now about 20 degrees on the blade. Okay, so there you have it. We have a garlic paste. There are a lot of oils in garlic as well, but still I do put it in oil. So now I have that inside of my cylindrical container. Cilantro and the burr stick. Story, a love story, a love-hate relationship. Cilantro, even though I'm going to use the burr stick. Now, when you mince something, I typically go like this. I think I already did that yesterday. But for this, all sakes and purposes, we're going to chop it up a little bit. And the reason why is it tends to get stringy. You can have strings in your vinaigrette. You don't want to have stringy stuff hanging out of your teeth while you're sitting across from whoever you're sitting across from. I mean, I think it's funny and I would poke fun at it, but that's not what you would want to do, right? So I just loosely chopped it up at this point. That's going in there. Trying to get as much as I can into the bowl, into here. Okay. Take the glove, take the other glove. We're going to wipe down the surface, because once again we're attempting to have a clean and safe work area. So I got my towel, wring it out, get the knife, wipe it down, get it out of the way. Take the towel, fold it over, wipe, 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 wipe. Once again, I use a sanitation solution here. I mean, at home, I would probably took my cutting board and ran it under the sink and probably put a little soap water on it and then started my process over. Organization when you're cooking, it really helps keep you focused and on point. If you are not organized, you start to get cluttered, you start to get bogged down, you start to think, what am I doing? And then something's burning behind you, something over here, is that, the cat's on the counter. I mean, things get weird. So we don't want any of that. So, well, okay, now we got the burr stick. So I take it, I got it like this. Now, since I don't have a pint glass, and this is, you know, a small amount, I'm gonna have to turn it on an angle. So. Little bit of salt and pepper. So the salt, actually works to help hold the vinegar and the oil together. It'll hold your emulsification longer. Salt is a binder. You can put that in the beginning with your honey. I just tap this off the side. Sometimes the strands actually get caught up in there. So I tap it a couple times, make sure that everything knocks loose. When I'm doing my cleaning, there's a button I push. I'm sure they're all different. I separate this immediately, and then unplug it. I don't want to cut my fingertips, so I'm gonna put that in there. Anything past this point, then I can pour in a bowl, or I can just use this for storage. And we're getting our cilantro vinaigrette right here. Taste it. Always taste everything. All of your taste buds are different, whether it be your dietary needs. I know that smoking requires people who do smoke use more salt than people that don't. So you're going to have to base this upon what you think. You have your salt and pepper mix. I'm happy with it as is. So that's about the end of it. Here you go. This is what it looks like. You can see the burr stick incorporated it. It's all one solid. I mean, if you had it in a pint glass where you can see through the glass, you probably see currently it is 100% emulsified. So the remainder of our ingredients, and we're going to build our bowl, and then I'm going to have to do some more plugging for Catering at Ross. Once again, you can go on that site. You can see all the tips and tricks of the things we do and a lot of the other recipes we have. We have 4 things here. We have your diced tomatoes, your diced pepper, your queso fresco, which obviously there's not going to be much work for that, and the avocado. But we're going to start off with the pepper and the tomato first, and then we'll do the avocado. Avocados oxidize fairly quickly. If you want to have the color of the screen, then you want to do it last, I would suggest. I would, when I store the other half of this, because we're giving you more than you need, put a little bit of lime juice on it and store it in a plastic bag, removing as much air as possible, the same process we did with the chicken marinade and the tofu. You don't want oxygen in there. You want, that'll make the process keep moving along, and the avocado won't last as long as you want it to. Avocado, the firmer they are, the longer they'll stay green. I think that when you're picking one, you want it to be slightly soft. The ones you're going to get could be soft, could be firm. It's a tricky situation with buying avocados. I think, chefs, we don't have a science to it. We try to get ones with an idea of how long, like for instance, some of you are picking your boxes up on Friday, some are picking their boxes up on Monday. We needed to get them, and we're manipulating them between the fridge and out of the fridge, so hopefully they're at the right ripeness for you. That's the same way that if you get them. They are in the family of fruit. You can put them in a brown paper bag, and ethylene gas will help them ripen. Maybe near a heat source, just so you're aware. So that's something that you can think about. In the fridge will slow the ripening. So if you get an avocado and it's hard as a rock, and you just put it in the fridge, and you're like, I'm going to eat that tomorrow. No, you're not. Okay, peppers. All right, so a bell pepper. I'm going to get a whole bell pepper. Hold that thought. And, okay, whole bell pepper. Remove the stick. You're going to wash your vegetables. Cleaning one. Okay. Tomatoes, I'm not going to show you how to clean that one, but the bell pepper, how do I clean this to get the most yield out of it and get what we're needing? Now we're giving you 2 pieces here. I end up usually cutting the bottom off, cutting the top off. Remove that piece. These are usable. These can be diced. You can julienne. You can do whatever you want with them. But a lot of people end up, I've seen in the kitchen, as one of those hot buttons for a chef. They throw them away. But not in this kitchen, trust me. All right, take the core out with your hands, and you'll see what you have now is you have a tube, and you see these white pieces here. They are non-flavorful bitter. So what I tend to do is work in usable amounts. So if you can do it all in one, do it all in one. Yeah, I'm going to do it in 2 for you. And I split it in half. I take my knife and I go on an angle and I lop those out of there. Move it aside. Lop those out of there. these will benefit you not at all. You don't need that, get rid of it, and now you have the pepper that you are going to be using at home for whatever. Pepper stored in the refrigerator, man, 3 days, 4 days, they start to get a little funny. Okay, so we got our peppers in the usable amount sizes we want. And what I wanted was a julienne pepper for this. Everything is kind of the same shape. The tomato, we can dice it or we can julienne it. It's up to you what you want to do. I think I'll dice it because I want you to see a couple different processes. But usually when we do something, we want uniformity. So if I have a diced pepper going on something, I'd have a diced tomato, diced onion. If I have a julienne or sliced onion or sliced tomato, then that would carry through the whole process. If I was going to make rice, I would dice the ingredients for it, and usually when I dice those, it's the size of the rice. That's kind of like when you're thinking about what size dice should I do for, I'm making rice pilaf, I'm making this, that, the other. Usually the cut of the vegetable is the equivalent to the size of the grain, or if you're making a beef stew, the size of the chunks of beef or whatever that you're doing. Okay, enough of that. I take my knife once again. We showed that I did the pointing. My finger curls here. My hand holds like this. I have 3 fingers underneath. And then I'm going to take the bell pepper. I'd like to slice it with the skin side down. If your knife is dull, then the skin side up I find works better. Don't push. You once again want to do the rocking arm motion. And that's what we're doing. Nice little rocking arm motion. I get to the tip here, my knuckle starts to curl. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. That's all. The reason we don't really want to see people doing the skin side up, if your knife is dull, it could slide. You need to keep your knife sharpened, and then you would be maybe visiting the ER, or if you're one of my kitchen staff, you just tape it off, tough it out, put a towel around it. You know, it's just another Call of Duty scar. Okay, then I put down diced tomatoes. We're going to dice the tomatoes for this one. It's going to be very similar in the process. I removed the seeds already. I cleaned it similar to the bell pepper. And so once again, this time skin side up. My knife is extremely sharp, and I'm confident with what I do. So this is why I do what I do. In your process of getting comfortable with using equipment, please, we can do advanced calculus unless you learn basic math. This is the 101 class. So please do it as such. So once again, here we go. The salt of the tomato, you would want the skin side down also, or else you'll mush it all over the cutting board here. So I line it up in a nice little row, little soldiers. And then back the other direction. Nice. Once again, you can hear the knife. Because that's cutting. It's not being shoved through something. Alright, tomatoes are done. Tomatoes are done. Avocado. We get to the fun part. Okay, so avocado, you need to have a spoon handy. Okay. Usually has a little piece here. Get that out of the way. And mine doesn't have it. The reason why you want to get that out of the way, you just don't want that to end up in your food. Alright, halfway up, right to the pit. I take it, rotating around, going around, connect the dots, spin. All right, we got 2 sides here, not that even, a little rusty I guess. Take the barrel of my knife, I tapped it, I did a little twisty twist, came out. Sometimes they come out, they got a little avocado still on them. Yours may have that happen. If that happens, it's a part of it. If you're not going to be using 1/2 of it, leave the pit in it. So you're only using 1/2 of the avocado for this project. I want to use this half, but hopefully you'll cut more evenly than me, even though I'm supposed to be the professional. Move that out of the way. That pit's going to slow the ripening of the center. Okay, so now we have this avocado here. I take the knife, and I want to do nice slices. So I'm going to run the knife down along the inside.
Gently and slow to not cut your hand.
Yeah, gently and slow. You'll notice my hand is right on the other side of this. This tip has it. I can feel it going through the skin. So it's tapping my hand, but also I'm wearing a glove, extra level of protection. I don't want to leave here with a wound today. So, that's another reason why to have gloves. We have gloves for multiple reasons. COVID being one, you might have them still now. But when you're cooking, there's nothing wrong with cooking in a house and putting gloves on. Once again, safety, who you're cooking for, controlling the environment are all part of the process. And, a lot has been learned from the time when I first started cooking, food safety wise. And I think a lot more has been learned by the average American with COVID to the level of which bacteria, viruses can be transmitted and what they can really do, the damage. And so you don't need that. Maybe get yourself a box and keep it on hand. All right, take a spoon and you just run it along the inside. So now I have that. I'm just going to set it aside on the spoon. Not trying to mishmash and manipulate it up all over the place, because that's just going to cause more problems than I really need to have happen. All right. Now we have our bowls. We're going to create them. So I've got 2 bowls here. And I kept them refrigerated, clean. I've got our grains. They have been properly cooled. You see they're nice and fluffy. Once again, this recipe yields 2. So you can multiply it, or it's really kind of hard to divide something when it has a vinaigrette. But you can multiply it to make it however you want. I'm going to pour this vinaigrette right in here. Just pour it all right in. Okay. And stir it up. We're stirring it up. We're getting those flavors in there. When I stir things, this is how I also make my whipped cream. One hand's going counterclockwise, one hand's going clockwise. It's a stirring motion, kind of incorporating it all together. I'm not at home. I stand away from things when I taste it. I know that things can fall out of my mouth, so I don't want that to happen. So if you're cooking for somebody that is not a part of your family, maybe when you're going to taste something, you just stand back for a second too. You get a little bit there. And that's good. All right. Yeah. So now we're going to divide it evenly. This apparently will be my breakfast, which is good. This is kind of going along the lines of the way food's going. Some stuff is cooked, some stuff is raw. I've seen a lot of this done with completely raw vegetables. They take cauliflower, they make like a cauliflower tabbouleh and put it over the top. You can take broccoli, just cut the florets down small. You can take the stem of the broccoli on a piece of equipment called a mandolin, and you can make nice little broccoli, like a little slaw with it. Put that on top of it as well. Tap it a little bit to have it go down. We're going to grab all of our ingredients all at once. So we've got our black beans, which I had seasoned, our corn, which we roasted. We have our garnish. Our pickled red onions and our other garnish of cilantro. A lot of ingredients. But and when you're eating vegetables, they always tell you, cover the gambit of the rainbow. As kids, we all love rainbows, so just stay focused on it. We already checked the seasoning on the corn. So we'll start with the things that we don't have to do anything else to. Get them out of the way. I'm going to plate these differently. I still got to get the chicken and the tofu out. So this first one, I'm going to do nice lines here. Then this one, I'm going to do like a segmented idea for plating. So we have that. Nice line, segmented. Tomatoes. We currently don't have them seasoned. We're going to have to season those with salt and pepper. We're going to take pickled red onions, a little bit of those there. Can you grab me a little salt and pepper? I'm draining the liquid out of here. This liquid can be used again. If you did some pickled vegetables, I keep pickling liquid into my fridge. All that we did was take sugar and vinegar and a little bit of salt, and we brought it to a boil. Sugar is a preservative. Salt is a preservative. Vinegar is a preservative. Now it has the flavors from the onions in here. This can be utilized again. You can keep pickling stuff. You can take it and use it a few different times, and it will just enhance the flavors of it. The queso fresco, you gotta have the cheese. So this is, like I said, like a feta cheese almost. You can crumble it. So you just take it, and then for this one, I'm gonna do a nice little crumble in a row. Little sides action over here. Okay, and we have our avocado. You can take that, put a couple different slices here, like so. Over here I can shingle them. And this is a lot of food. I mean, it's gonna be good. I'm gonna get some new buns on here. So a little salt and pepper mix. I'm gonna put a little bit on the peppers. I'm gonna put a little bit on the tomatoes. Shake it up real quick. Everything gets seasoned. Everything gets seasoned. So I'm gonna put a little bit of peppers here. Put a little peppers over here. Tomatoes. Tomatoes, put them over here. Get out of the tomatoes. Stop fighting me. No need for that. Okay. We got our chicken and our tofu. So you're going to have either two breasts or you're going to have two pieces of tofu. You wouldn't have both here, but I'm going to do a little bit with both here. So the chicken. When I cut chicken, I try to do a wider surface area. You can do julienne, something you'd see in probably Southwest cuisine. What I typically do is a long on a bias slice, so from the fattest part to the thinnest part. 1, 2, 3. And I'll take that and I'll use my knife like my hand. Put it underneath it, maybe go in a fun different direction. Spread it, open it up a little bit. Tofu, for this, you can do the same thing. You can go straight down, we're gonna do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. All right, got that guy going for us now. All right, you got a little bit of yogurt here. We're gonna put a dollop. So it's got the vinaigrette and it's got the yogurt. I do love doing multiple sauces when I do things, even cooking at home. A lot of times I'll have some sort of a beef entree dish and I'll do a reduction sauce, some sort of just a natural liquid-based demi, and then I'll come back behind it and I'll make like something with a mayonnaise base and like an aioli or something like that. So the contrast of the sauce play off each other. Some will stick on your palate a little shorter, some will stick on your palate a little longer. A couple little limes. And obviously we gotta have the cilantro. It's a nice little dollop of cilantro. Let's put this out like size. And there you have it. Those are your plates. That's the meal that we created. Once again, you can manipulate it with different pickled vegetables. You can manipulate different cuts of meat on it. You can change the profile completely. Once again, if you have any issues with this, you can always reach out to me. I'm here. That's one of the benefits of kind of going to the school, I think, is you have somebody on hand who's a chef who can help you. Not just with this, but other cooking creations. My email is Miller, MILLER -JOHN 15 @aramark.com. You can just reach out to me via that email. I'd be happy to answer questions when it comes to this or other cooking techniques. There's all the other videos we already have on the Catering at Ross page. You could just get involved with those, check those out. Some of them I really try to make for the person who's not a culinary expert. I want people to be able to sit at home and hopefully I walk them through the steps of being able to do the things near-ish to what I'm doing. On top of that, we're going to take this video and we're going to end up putting it on our Catering at Ross page. I know it's getting recorded and it will be available through Zoom. I'm not sure how that's going to be distributed past that point, but we want to be able to give you the opportunity to go back, forth. When you're in the process of cooking, and I'm talking about tools and meal prep and this, that, the other, it can kind of just, be tone deaf because you're focused, you're doing something. So all that will be available to you for you to touch base on after the fact. So congratulations once again, your last 100 days, MBA 2. I wish you the best. Go out in the world, make it a better place, and Chef John out.